All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Up in the Air.stream. And in this episode today, I am going to show you the step-by-step process in which we tackle the installation of our solar panels, additional solar panels on our 2022 23-foot forward bunk Airstream. So, you know, there's a lot of videos out there. AM Solar does a really nice job of showing you some details. There's East Coast Airstreamers, I think is the people also that I originally had come across. And I'm not trying to duplicate what they have done, because they've done a great job of showing their approach and basically how they've tackled this. I'm just going to offer another video for you to watch. I always watch multiple videos before I do any project, just because it is one of those things where, you know, each person does it a little bit differently, and some things I think, you know, they build on the success of others, and hopefully that's going to be the case with me today in doing this project. It is going to be over multiple days. I think what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to prep one of the panels and kind of get the panel out and get a feel for it. And then one of the things that I think is important is just kind of showing like what tools that you might need, and that's also going to be part of this video as well. So we're going to be using some sawhorses here, and then this piece of plywood as a workspace here in the Airstream barn. So let's get to it. I'll get the panel out, and then I'll start showing you the bracketry also that I purchased from AM Solar. All right, so we have some things out of the box now, and let me show you kind of like what the box looks like and what to expect when it arrives to you. So when they come to you, you'll have this long box. You know, these are Zamp panels, and just to be clear, we are using the ZSK1010 Zamp solar panel, 90 inches long, obsidian panel with curved surface mounting kit. Now, kind of to be more clear about that, that's a little deceiving, I think, just because I don't really necessarily think that these mountings are really idea. I'm sure they work just fine. I'm sure a lot of people have had great success with them, but Zamp, you know, they do make a lot of products for Airstream. So kind of go on about that. They show like even a diagram here, the mounting feet assembly instructions that shows you with like the T-nut and the VHB tape. But let me go over here and I'll just say a couple things to that. So we can see here, hopefully with not too much shadow, you know, you have these mounting brackets. They are like lower profile, and but they don't really give you like any, like, even though it shows in the picture here of having like this sideways diagonal one, I don't see those in the packaging whatsoever. I mean, I've taken this completely apart and they're not in there. So I would kind of just have the idea of just writing off the mounting kit for your Airstream. If you're going to do this project correctly, I think the AM Solar products are much better. I know that's a good plug for them, but I think they do a nice job, and I'll show you why. But let's look at what other items do come with this. There's this cord here. I'm not sure exactly how long it is. I'm a little concerned at this point in time whether or not I'll need to get an extension, because I am going to be mounting these on the rear part of the Airstream on both sides. At least that's the plan currently. We'll see how that goes. So there is always a possibility that I'll have to maybe get a extension for this I think they call them SAE adapters. But keep in mind also that you know, I believe Zamp, don't take my word for it, they kind of do things like backwards as far as the polarity of these plugs. So, but this one is in the package. It does have this obsidian style plug here, and then this is what the panel looks like. This is the Obsidian series, which is different than what is on the Airstream currently. I probably will show you that even more, like the differences between the two. This is kind of a lower profile, more modern panel as far as my knowledge goes, and so that's why I went with it. It's a lower profile for sure. The other one is much more boxier. As you can see there, it was quality controlled there in Bend, Oregon. I do like the fact that these panels are made in the United States, made in the USA by Zamp. So that was a big plus with choosing them. And then here's that proprietary style plug that the Obsidian panels come with, and possibly others to do also. Admittedly, I am not like the most informed, I guess, when it comes to these solar panels. I've done quite a bit of research, I feel like, at this point in time, just enough to be dangerous, and maybe this will be just enough information for you as well to do this project. All right, so moving on to the AM Solar part of this, the AM Solar kit, and to be clear, like, I'm not sure if that was my order number, but it is the mount set, the 91M-O or L mount kit set for the Obsidian low profile, and that's what I went with. And this is like the pick list. So these are all the parts that you get. Comes with a good amount of instructions. It does say, like, if you don't use this within 30 days, you're not going to be able to return it. I'm probably I'm past that. So hopefully this is exactly what I need. I think it is. It even shows, like, this diagram here, even mentions the Obsidian panel and how they recommend going 10 inches from the short edge. And it shows you like a little diagram there. So to kind of show you like a little bit like a visual, so before I get this all mounted up, there's the T-nut that's going to go in the slot, and this will be, imagine this T-nut would actually be flipped upside down, so this would be the other way. So I did a poor job already. This would actually, and you're going to put these in into the slots prior to putting this on there, but this is going to come out this way, and like they said, it's going to go like 10 inches in, and then you'll have this mount that you'll take the tape off. Everything came packaged really nicely. It all comes on, this is the other kit, so I bought two kits. This is for the other panels since we are installing two. They all come in foam and very nicely powder coated, so this is going to last for many years with stainless steel. It'll probably outlast almost all the items probably up on the roof, because this is a well-made product, and they put the quality to it. Already comes pre-installed with the 3M VHB tape, and you have to have some confidence that this is the tape that you'd want to use, since this is the tape that they're using daily in their installations there at their factories and shop. So that's good. And it does come with just basically explaining to use the lock washer and everything else there as well. Now it does show like a quick knob there for adjustment, but obviously we don't have those. We're just going to be using these regular screws that it comes with. I am going to put Loctite on this as well. Somebody had mentioned like they thought that was a good idea to do that. One other thing that kind of confused me at first here was the fact that there's holes on each side of this bracket that comes away from the panel itself. That is just so that this is able to be used universally, that it has these ears on both sides so that it can be used on this side of the panel and then also on the other side of the panel. So don't be confused. There's not going to be anything that goes in there. I guess if you really wanted to get a beefy setup, you could always request to have some additional feet, so you could put feet on both sides. But really, that's overkill. That was just my thought. It's like, wow, I could have maybe asked them for another set of feet, all the way around. But once again, unless you're really using some very, very long panels, and really in that case, you would probably want to have some maybe like mid panel, not just on each end. This is the low profile kit. The other things that we're going to be using to move on here as quick as possible is we're going to be using some of this 3M adhesion promoter that is specifically for recommended by 3M for VHB tape. That is part 111. It's available on Amazon, at least at the time when I had ordered it. And we're going to be using some white Sikaflex. So it does come in different colors. This is the 221. And just to kind of show you there, I'll read this: Sikaflex 221 white multi-purpose sealant adhesive. You do not want to use the other product, which is the RV lapping sealant. You don't want to use that. So I'm forgetting what that is. It's so obvious to me right now. I can't believe I forgot it, but I do every time. But this is the stuff that you want to use. You don't, because it is an adhesive and also a sealant, both. The other stuff is not what they use at the factory. This is actually what they use, is the Sikaflex at the Airstream factory. So, alrighty, and then just to show once again, it was the ZS. This is actually from Zamp. It's a ZSK 1010 is the item that we ordered, 2 of them. So, all right, we'll get these feet on here and I'll show you some more. So we have the feet installed, and I just wanted to give you a close-up. The example that I gave you earlier was really kind of a poor example. I had things not oriented correctly, and so, like, you know, I recommend always kind of watching like the whole video before you try to do this, like, step by step. And then that brings up a good point. My installation videos, this is not an installation video. This is kind of just a reference or something to consider video, because obviously I'm going to do things that will not be captured on film and in the video, and also it may not be correct. So, you know, I take this video with a grain of salt. You're going to want to do your own research. I say this statement almost every time I do a video, because I don't want somebody to do something wrong and then it end up messing something up for them permanently. So do your own research. This is just a helpful video, not a step-by-step installation video. So follow the instructions, which I'm not very good at sometimes. I do reference stuff, but let me give you a hint here as well. So this is just like a sewing device. It's called an Olfa 6x12 plastic. It's pretty well worn because I use it in my holster business. And so if you look at this, the great thing about it, though, since we need to have these feet precisely 10 inches according to their instructions from the edge, we can reference 10 inches. And then also the beauty of this too is we can square up our brackets. So one of the things about putting these brackets on is down here, I hope I can pick this detail up, is you do need to make sure that those T-nuts are not cocked in there, that they actually are seated correctly, and they do reference that in their videos here to verify that you do get those T-nuts squared up underneath there. That way that it has maximum strength and that your bolts aren't trying to pull sideways. These brackets here, once again, it's a washer, lock nut, or a lock washer. I'm not going to put thread locker on them, even though initially I thought I would. That lock washer is thread locker. It is creating a locking effect of the thread because of the pressure. So I'll come down here and give you, like a cross section of that. This part here I'm going to leave loose because I don't know the contour of the roof, and so as long as I leave it loose, I can come back, and once I put these feet down, take the tape off, after prepping the roof, I can tighten these up. I want them to articulate, so as I'm putting them down on the roof, if they get bumped a little bit, they're going to move, and then allow the VHB tape to sit flush and as I do pressure. Also, if you watch the AM Solar's Airstream video, he actually shows you how he attaches one side of the panel and then rocks it back towards himself. So that's also another reason why you kind of want to leave them loose, so you can actually pivot the panel back to you. So I tighten them up just so they can be manipulated, but so that they're not too loose. So that's where I put those. So let's look at what we're working with here today. This is the second day of this project. I didn't do much yesterday, so it was just basically getting things out and kind of staging a couple things. I do have some additional equipment that you're going to want to, have some virgin microfiber towels. And when I say virgin, I'm just saying they've never been used on anything. So they're completely clean, no residual. no residual detergents, at least not that I'm aware of. So we're going to use those for sure to get the best cleaned surface as possible. Also in here, I do have a spray bottle with some super clean in it. We're going to use that, and then plenty of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and we'll use that as well to take away any of the residual from the super clean, and also to do a good final wipe down. And actually the final wipe down, just as a reminder, will be the adhesion promoter. And I'll show you a method. There's actually a method for using that that 3M shows and demonstrates in some of their videos. It seems like it'd be pretty cut forth or simple setup, but it's actually, there is just a little bit of a technique to make sure you're doing it exactly as it's designed to be done. So let me show you guys the ladder here. And so I actually bought this ladder. It's a Gorilla, or actually a Little Giant, that is leveler ladder. And this is, I'm trying to get like the model for you so that you could possibly see the model. And I did get it at Lowe's. It wasn't cheap. It's one of the most expensive ladders that I've bought, but it does quite a bit, so that's a good thing. You can use it as a straight ladder, and actually I use it even in the overheads here to work on the lights. So it will actually work as an A-frame ladder that high. So it goes really high. And I bought it specifically though for using it for the Airstream, and I did use this ladder for the micro air. So let's climb the ladder here and just kind of start looking at what our starting point is. As a reference, the rear of the 23-foot Globetrotter here, this is where we're going to put the solar panels. There is the original factory installed, and as you can see down there, I think you can make that out. Those brackets that they used are kind of in the center. I think the reason why AM Solar wants you to space them at least 10 inches from the end is they don't want any excessive center flex as it's going down the road, because that's probably what they have found has been destructive of these panels in the past. At least that's what my guess is. And then you can see the AC unit there that we did the micro air install, and I did do a video on that, just talking about it, just a little bit, not much. So over there is where we're going to be running our wires to, so I'll show you more of that later. That is the Zamp interface pod, or I forget exactly what the name of it's called, but it does have those SAE connectors up there that we'll be plugging into. But yeah, we're gonna make sure our cables are long enough, but now that I'm looking at this, they're gonna be plenty long, so there's not gonna be any worry whatsoever of that. We'll have to actually kind of probably zip tie some of them up, and we're gonna put some anchors down, some double-sided tape anchors down, and zip tie those cables down, and try to do a nice job where you can't see them from the road. Most of this stuff up here you cannot see from ground level, but you do want to make it look nice. So roof's not too dirty, so that's good, but we are going to put the panels up here and just kind of see where we need to clean. We'll probably just wipe the whole area down. It's not that big of an area in the first place. You do have a soil pipe on the other side. That is not going to interfere from what I can tell. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically go like maybe the first rib in. I think it is smart also, just as a consideration, and I haven't really heard of folks talk about this too much, but to try to get your feet to land in an area that is close to a rib, because and that's what I'm talking about, is like the ribs that run from side to side. So like this would be a good example, because you can see there's rivets that are running this way. This stuff does flex quite a bit, so you don't want to be too far away from one of these, and if you can actually make it land on there, that'd be even better. I do want to stay away from the AC unit as much as possible, so I think justifying it to the rear here will be the best plan. The AC unit won't affect the solar panels so much. other than producing a little bit of heat. But my idea is that if I need to slide this AC unit off to replace it someday, keeping these solar panels out of the way as much as possible will be a really good thing. And maybe there really isn't going to be a way to do that. Maybe I'll just have to simply just take them off, which wouldn't be a big deal either, taking the bolts out. I don't see us putting more than 270 watts. I think that these 2 additional solar panels will be all that we'll ever do. Keep in mind also that really the wiring up on the roof here is only rated for the 2 additional panels, the 2 additional 90 watt panels to be more clear. So the wiring, you'd have to actually redo your wiring going down through the trailer itself if you do want to do more wattage than that. So keep that in mind as well. So this is more the easier, simpler approach to get quite a bit of capability with really not much trouble whatsoever, or expense for that matter, because you're not really adding anything to it other than just the panels. So all right, I'll get to it. Some prep here on the panels, and I'll try to get out of the light here. So my thought here is that these connectors, the cable that goes basically from the proprietary cable or connector that goes to the SAE connection, it does come with, and just to explain it a little bit further, this is the SAE connection. It does come with that, so just keep in mind that this cable does come with it. I did not, these are pretty weather tight cables. They have like a O-ring inside there, but I wanted to orient this sideways because that, if you talk about like forcing winds or water, as you travel down the road, this will take it more bluntly and not try to make its way up into the actual cables inside of the connector, and maybe even start some corrosion in there, which would lead to the demise of the copper wiring. Also, this fuse that's here located, I put these zip ties on here. It's these little anchors, that you can get on Amazon with some zip ties. I didn't want this to be just flailing around and causing stress also on these connectors. So I think taking your time in doing this is something that is good. I put plenty of these things on here just because they really don't stick the best. The 3M tape is not the best, but prep the surface with some alcohol before you go to stick them on there, let it dry, and then just use plenty of them. I mean, they're very cheap, so might as well use as many. I did make sure to stay away from this like hard edge here, so that you don't want to put it like right up there, but this is actually going to be dropping down to be meeting up with the roof of the Airstream, so just be aware too. Don't put that too close to the edge there that it could rub on there. All right. So here's the panel up on the roof, and a couple of things to talk about here. First off, I did take my cable and walk it down, or throw it down that way, just making sure that I did have in fact enough cable to plug in. If it came down to just an inch or something, it would be a shame if you justified this in such a manner that you just came up short just by just a little bit. So definitely make sure that your cable is going to run the full length, and if you need to move it a little bit more, then do so. So this is going to go up here pretty nice. It hangs over the back, and obviously you don't want to ever put the feet outside of the white area on the roof. But the reason why I am going to go ahead and let it hang off the back and not go ahead and put it more forward to have it completely on the white is because, like I was saying earlier, if I needed to slide this AC unit off because it just needs to be replaced finally, I could do that by putting a blanket up there and unbolting it and lifting it up onto the blanket and just coming across without coming across the panels and lifting it any higher than I had to, if I mount it in fact where I am right now. So I think that's worth it. Down the road, you just never know how easily these bolts are going to come out. Probably not going to be something I'm going to worry about, but I hope somebody is worrying about it, because that means this Airstream is still on the road many years from now. But the other thing that I think is useful is just find you something that you can use your spacing instead of a tape measure, because it's just more handier. I just used a little object that was the right spacing there, and I spaced it from the seam. I don't think you want to stay up from the seam. Obviously the seam is not clean, and I didn't want to over clean the seam because I didn't want the silica there to be the Silcaflex to be attacked by the cleaner or the alcohol or any of that. And then down the road you might have to actually build up the sealer quite a bit just to keep this seam sealed. So I would stay away from it a little bit. Don't put it all the way down there. There's no reason to do that. Also, you're going to want your water to run through there. So if it's a really heavy rain, it could puddle up and actually come in contact with your feet. So there's just all kinds of considerations when you're doing this. I took a permanent marker and actually marked where it's going to be. I need to move it a little bit because it actually did move, but that way you can know for sure, like, this is in fact exactly where I want it, and if it moves you'll be able to tell right away that it moved. I think I'm going to do this a little bit in backwards order from the way that I seen them do it, because before they had actually taken the tape off at the back and then laid it down. But I don't think you have more control with this side that's closer to you, so why not do that first? Just lift it up, lower it down exactly where it needs to be, and then you could always hinge it towards you, take the tape off, and then push it down the back. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I'm not saying that either way is wrong, but I am going to do that differently than they did it, just because I think I have more control over seeing where it's landing that's right in front of me. So yeah, without having to, because even in the video it walks off on them, you know what I mean? So the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to take the adhesive promoter, and I'm not really going to show you that, but that is the next step, is to take the 3M adhesive promoter and wipe these areas off exactly where this VHB is going to land. So that's the next step. There is the feet mounted with the VHB tape, and you're going to want to do all of your tape connections or all your mounts before you ever crack open that Silcaflex, because once you open that tube, there is a time period where it's going to finally start curing. So, and you don't want to make two messes, you know what I mean, that type of thing. But one other note here is, remember I had just barely I tightened them up to where these feet could manipulate but not be loose. And what you're going to want to do is, once you do get these feet, I did this side again, once again, took the tape off, lowered it down, kept looking left and right until it landed right where I wanted it to, and then pressed down on them for like 30 seconds, like put my hands in this area and actually press down hard on both sides at the same time for like 30 seconds. A lot of double-sided mounting tape will tell you that, just to give the tape the most amount of time to get that bond going reliably, because if it pops back, keep in mind these feet are flat. The roof here is curved. It's pretty obvious that it is, and but the metal itself does have some flex to it, and by you pressing down for like 30 seconds, that's basically forcing the metal to flatten to where these feet are actually making contact with them. So definitely recommend that. And then when you're tightening the hardware here, press down on this side of the foot really hard as you're taking your wrench to tighten that nut, because what you don't want to do is tighten this nut and actually pop the foot plate off of the roof, because you're literally using a wrench to tighten this. So you could easily do that. So you're going to want to press down hard here to counter your torque on your screw here. You're going to want your washer to allow things to move and not pop this loose. So all right, I know I've given you quite a bit of details, but I just want to kind of help you with some of the things that I've seen that could go wrong if you didn't kind of take your time here and think about things. So the next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to go over there and I'm going to plug that solar panel in, and then we're going to pull out and see if it's actually working, that if it increased the amount of solar. I'll probably pull out and check it first and then get up on the ladder and then plug it in so I can see. Well, yeah, I probably will. It's not a very sunny day, so we'll see what the difference is. So we have the other solar panel plugged in here, and I'm gonna kind of take the camera and reach over with it and talk about a couple things here. First off, the factory clip there, you can see that the factory had installed that little piece of double-sided tape, and that didn't hold. I'll show you later that I am going to actually put, well, just in case I don't show you, I am going to put some Sikaflex over top of these little anchors as when I install them. But the reason why I wanted to tell you and show you a little bit of video here is because that was a bear to get plugged in, and I did use some dielectric grease. One of the things that I will do on the next one, even though for the most part these are out of the weather, forcing or driving rains is what I meant to say earlier, going down the road, you can have water intrusion. So those plugs that you seen earlier, and I'd say even like the fuse holder, I would take the fuse holder cap off and put just like a little bit of dielectric grease around the edge of the cap. You don't have to overdo it, just a little bit of grease will go a long ways for this dielectric grease to keep that watertight. And then also the other plug, I would do the same as well. Just put before you plug in the cable here, just put a little bit of a dielectric grease, not too much because they are sealed, and if you put too much in there, a lot of times those plugs won't go together correctly, and so you're kind of defeating the purpose of doing that. Kind of like a Deutsch plug. It would have been nice if they would have made them Deutsch plugs. They're not. That's kind of the premium weatherproof plug, is the Deutsch plug design. But then kind of going back to what I was talking about, this Zamp SAE connector going into this hub up here, like I could not get it to go in. And what it is that you figure this has been up here baking in the Florida sun, and the top pin, I think the plastic had allowed the top pin to kind of walk upward a little bit, and so that was making it where it would not line up correctly with the plug. So what I did is I kind of took the plug on an angle and pushed that top male pin downward just a little bit, and I'll have to do the same thing with the center one, because after being up here for a little bit and going, okay, well maybe there's something wrong with this plug, I tried the middle one, which the middle one is going to be for the passenger side. But yeah, that was what did it. I just bent that pin down slightly, and like I said, that's probably a result of just the fact that the sun has got the better of these plastic components and kind of made a little bit of shrinkage, and then it bent the pin up. So keep that in mind if you have a really hard time plugging these in, and it's one of those things, you're up on a ladder reaching over, or you're trying not to crush anything, and so it can be a little bit frustrating, but that will probably be the problem solver for you as well. So we have the cable run here, and I want to say that a lot of videos don't have you using the 3M adhesive promoter, and I don't know if a lot of folks don't realize that 3M, their products are just space age, really. I mean, they've been doing it forever, and they make so many different types of products, especially in the automotive painting world as well. And so the chemists there are second to none, and they really know what they're doing. And with all that being said, that 3M adhesive promoter, it is not cheap, but I always feel like trying to do the job the best. That way I know, like, if something goes wrong, I know I put my best foot forward when I did it, and I don't have to second guess myself the whole time, or lose sleep over it. The 3M adhesive promoter is definitely worth it. And I really didn't have a way to test that, because I used it but who knows how much better it bonds with it or without it. But I will say that I had cleaned this roof really good, and even went back again with alcohol in the spots where I was putting these little anchors for the cables, and they were not sticking very well. They were coming up, and I thought, okay, well, maybe that's not that big of a deal, because I'll be putting the Sikaflex on there, and that will definitely adhere it, because a lot of it's a sealant and adhesive. And truth be told, probably if that was all you were using to seal or to put these feet on here, it would probably do just as good. I mean, it would, I'm not saying to do that, but that is probably the case. You probably wouldn't even have to use VHB tape. But to get back to my point was, I was like, well, shoot, these cables up here, sticking is pretty important. And then I had shown you how the factory little anchor for the cable had come loose, which is not good. Then the cable's just, the connector is taking abuse, and the cable's flailing around as you're going down the road. I was like, well, I have this 3M adhesive, promoter. I might as well use it, because who knows, if I'll have another project that I'll use it on. Though I know now I'll be using it every time I use any type of double-sided tape, in my opinion, because I did get up here with a rag with that stuff, and I cleaned it, and I could not get these little anchors to come off. That's how good that stuff is. I mean, it went from being like barely sticking to like, man, it is on there. So I had to brag about that. I had to let you guys know that. So I wanted to share that with you, that stuff is the stuff, man, and it's worth the money. It'll go a long ways. Don't overdo it on your rag, because it does go pretty far. But obviously, like I said, it's pretty expensive. So let me show you what I did. I know I was just keeping it in one spot there as I was going on about so this is how I did this. I ended up getting rid of that factory anchor there, and putting my anchors on that were actually sticking good. And then, as you can see, I kind of put my little anchors like right where a rivet was, because my thought process is if I'm up here basically putting the Sikaflex on a particular spot, because I don't, I do want to use the Sikaflex over top of the cable, and the reason why is because really, like, zip ties, the UV will get the best of them pretty quick. Like I'm talking maybe like 3 or 4 years. They get pretty brittle. If I put the Sikaflex over top of them, not only will they keep the VHB tape, or the 3M tape, is just regular double-sided white mounting tape is what they use on these. It will keep it from water getting in there and popping them up and stuff like that, but also keep your zip ties and also your little plastic mounts from the UV rays from just basically making them brittle and breaking. So I did that. The other thing that I did is I cut those little caps off, because now I'm adding another panel, so I could have cut that middle one off, but I just didn't yet, because there's no reason to do it ahead of time. But the other thing is cut those little caps off. So I mean, you're not going to use them again. If you had a panel go bad, I mean, you still would have your plug in there. So like, I just think it's kind of crappy that they don't cut them off, because they're just up there flipping, and you can see them from the ground, and you're like, what's that? It looks like something's come loose. Well, it is loose. So, it's just the little details. Use your zip ties across there. I just doubled up my extra. All right, another thing I wanted to share with you here. I was actually getting this next panel out of the box, and I said, wait a minute, this is not the same, because it's not the same. So it's a different fuse holder. Everything else looks the same as far as the plugs go. No, actually they're not the same. So this is different in the fact that now they are putting, this is the later of the two, now they are putting an adapter here at the end, as well as a plug in the back. So there's an additional plug here that's not really welcomed, because that's just another point of failure. So, but I'll take this apart and put some dielectric grease in there. Yeah, just kind of odd. The one that we had installed previously was made in May 9th of 2022. These panels were ordered by me like a couple months ago directly from Zamp. So that's the other thing. Or maybe did I get them on Amazon? I don't know. I'm sorry. I apologize. I think I did order them directly from Zamp, but maybe not. So maybe that explains the difference here. But this one here was made almost exactly a year later, May 22 of 23. So I have one that is a older one, and I have one that is a newer one. So that's a little disappointing, but I can't necessarily blame Zamp if I ordered them off of Amazon, and I wish I knew if I did. Maybe I'll go ahead and I'll put this on pause and I'll find out. Okay, so I did order them directly from Zamp, and you know, this doesn't seem like that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, there's bigger problems in the world, obviously, but I did not order them from Amazon. This could be an issue, though, and I've ran into this in the past when I had ordered something off of Amazon, not directly from Zamp. Obviously, you want to keep your receipts. I don't know if they track the serial numbers, and I don't think I registered these, but the fact is that they know based on the serial number and the back of the unit here. It does not say, it doesn't have a serial number that I see, actually. Well, what I was getting, yeah, maybe that's the serial number right there. So what I was getting at was, you know, they could decline to warranty these if that one, you know, they only have like a 2-year warranty, and that one's a year old already, more than a year old, and then the other one was built this year. So something to keep in mind. I kind of wish I would have maybe looked at that. You don't think you have to. I mean, we live busy lives, but all right, enough about that. Just for your use, though, keep that in mind when you order these panels, that you're going to want to check the manufacturing date, because Zamp is sitting out old panels. So shame on you, Zamp. So we got the second panel up here, and originally I thought that soil pipe wouldn't interfere with the solar panel here, but it did, but no big deal. I'm still happy with where I placed it. It is not even, but there's really nothing up here that's even when you think about it. I still like the idea of leaving that gap, because if you were in a situation where your AC unit had basically totally destroyed itself and was no longer able to be repaired or anything else, that's a bad day in the hot heat. So not having to remove a solar panel and those type of things would be a good thing. So I'm glad that I did not match it over on this side. I'm glad that I put it where I did, because it just makes sense to me to do that. Even just to service the Dometic, you know, the compressor, all the electronics is on the passenger side, in case you've never had the lid off of one of these Penguin 2s. That is, you know, where you basically install your micro air easy start as well, is you know, all the electronics are on that side, though you do need to access this time, but most of your work will occur over there. So we have the wires just laying up here, and the next step is to put the wires down like we did on the other side. All right, so we're inside the coach now, inside the Airstream, and I wanted to test along the way. I wanted to test how many watts was going in, just so I know that both the panels are working. It's an overcast day, and so I don't expect to get, you know, basically the reading that I'm really looking for, so we'll have to look for that another day. But one of the things I wanted to share with you, I have all the lights on, including the fridge on right now. And the reason for that is, if your batteries are pretty much topped off on a float charge, your Victron Energy, and there might be another setting, but it really won't read on what, you know, what the panels are receiving or what they're producing. It's more about, like, you know, what type of exchange of energy is being given to the batteries. And so that's kind of how this works, is it just shows,
you know, what the solar controller is actually doing with your batteries. And so the little menu there is the PV with the arrow left, arrow right, and that's showing like energy in, energy out. And so you do need to put a load on the batteries by turning all your lights on and just kind of trying to challenge. Now, this is my understanding of it. I don't know this for sure. So, you know, if I'm wrong, please put it in the comments that that is not the way that it works. But I know that when I had it basically with really nothing on, it was just like at 5, you know, and that's with the 3 panels plugged in now. And I don't know if you can make that out. I think you can. We're up to 207. So if we did the math and we had 2 panels at 90 watts a piece, that's 180. So we've already exceeded that. So that gives me a level of confidence that the 3 panels are now in fact working, as we are at 241, 250, 257. So yeah, this is awesome. You know, I'm pretty excited about it. This was kind of my goal. Wow, 280. So yeah, they're really pulling it down, and it's an overcast day out there. I can't even imagine what a direct sunlight day would be. So 294. Let's see here. Yeah, 3 times 90, that's 270. So I mean, these Obsidian panels are really putting the juice to them. So pretty awesome. And all right, I'm gonna wrap this project up, and then if there is anything else I want to share with you, I'll share with you, and you know, do our salutation. All right, since I've made this kind of a detailed installation video, a little bit more than maybe necessary or typical for me, might as well take you all the way. So here is some more of the wiring up here. Not as neat, obviously, as the other side. There must be more length, or, well, it's further up, though. Okay, anyways. So there's that plug I was talking about, the unwelcome plug. I don't know why they did that, but, you know, that's the newer version, so that's what you should expect from the newer version, unless you get some old stock. You need to cut that cap off there. But the next thing to do is to put the silica. I probably have butchered that name like 100 times in this video, but anyways. And then another thing that I want to kind of give you, like, if you looked at this whole video prior to even thinking about doing this, which is always a good idea to do that. Don't just, you know, start watching a little bit and going at it. Watch the whole thing. Is I think everybody, or a lot of folks, are suspecting, at least I am, that Starlink is going to come out with something that is more RV friendly than what they currently have. And that's a little bit more mountable, so you don't have to take it outside your RV. And if you're familiar with, that is actually what this is. This is Airstream's poor attempt at coming up with a cellular internet service, and that's where that will go. And they basically have it pre-plumbed, because then you can get it done at the Airstream factory. I think that this will end up being utilized sometime in the future. And so really, what does that concern you in regards to you know, installing some solar panels? Well, by installing both of them back there and leaving all this real estate open, and this being that it does go into the bedroom, which is where any of the electronics would probably end up finding their way into this bedroom on this side, or this closet that is on this side of the bedroom, that is the perfect spot. And I'm glad that I've left this real estate completely open up on top of the Airstream for that, hopefully, future expansion. I just don't see how they won't do it, because it has been extremely popular for Starlink. So, all right, let me get to sealing all this up, and I'll show you that. You are going to want some rubber gloves for that, and that's pretty much covered in the a lot of the videos on how to do that. And if you're watching all this and you're making a list of things that you need, so some vinyl gloves, and also a caulk gun. So put that on your list of things that you're going to need for this project. All right, well, we are done with this project. At least I think I am. And I'm gonna be a little apologetic to the guys at the Airstream factory when it comes to putting down this sealant adhesive. Man, that stuff is hard to work with, and it is super tacky. So the biggest thing was initially I was like, I'm just gonna go around the perimeter of the feet and then just like the 2 screw holes, or what would be screws. We didn't use any screws, obviously. But the problem with that, I think, and the reason why people cover them over completely, is because it will create like a little swimming pool for basically water to sit in, and that in time could take its toll on that powder coating, because we don't know how good a powder coating that really is. So I would say just like you see on most things on a Airstream roof, or any RV for that matter, it's not exclusive to that. I just realized we have Sirius XM antenna up there. I didn't know we had that. So anyways, yeah, and then I did the little cables, and this stuff isn't like permanent, so if you have to, you could remove it if you needed to. Wouldn't be easy, and it's meant to be pretty good, but I think putting a little bit of sealant on each one of those anchor points for the cables was a good way to go. Obviously, unless I need to replace the cables, then that's going to be a little bit of a trick, but at that point in time, I'll just be putting a brand new cable down completely, most likely. So, no worries there. So, all right. Well, I hope this video was helpful to you. One more thing. Be careful when you are reaching over the panels to put the sealant on the top side. And I think it'd almost be worth it to go ahead and unbolt the panels, and then do your sealing and then put them back on, because reaching over top of them, unless you're brave and you want to stand on top of your Airstream, which I have no desire to do. I've been able to do everything I needed to do right off of this ladder, with using like a foam pad, like a garden pad, and located in the right places, and then putting my knees right on the beams. So that's how I've got most of my weight has still been on the ladder the majority of the time. So anyways, let me wrap it up. I know I get long-winded, but those brackets will bend easily if you put any weight on the panels, and you really don't want to put any elbow weight or anything on the panels anyways, because then you risk maybe cracking one, even though these things are pretty tough. But yeah, all right. So if you have found value in this video, and it has been helpful to you on what to do, or what not to do for that matter, definitely give me a like and subscribe to our channel. We are always coming out with new Airstream how-to videos, reviews, campground reviews, and just sharing with you our travels throughout the United States. So thank you very much for watching. I know this was a long one, and catch you on the next one.